Sean Diddy Combs built an empire on music, fame, and money, but now it's unraveling in a federal courtroom. What started as whispers in the shadows has exploded into one of the most disturbing trials in music history. For 5 weeks, the world's been hearing from a woman known only as Jane, a former girlfriend who says she was emotionally manipulated, paid off, and pushed into horrifying acts. All while Diddy called it just part of the lifestyle. She says she was love-bombed, coerced, and used like a pawn to satisfy twisted fantasies. And the details? They're darker than anyone imagined. This is no tabloid scandal. This is a federal case, with racketeering, trafficking, and years of alleged abuse laid out in shocking detail. And we're breaking it all down, right now. When the first headlines dropped in late 2024, most people thought it was just another celebrity rumor. Sean Diddy Combs, rap mogul, business tycoon, and industry heavyweight, was being investigated for alleged misconduct behind the scenes. But no one expected what came next. In September, federal prosecutors hit him with a bombshell indictment. Not one, but 3. Including charges of trafficking by force, transportation to engage in obscene acts of adultery, and racketeering conspiracy. That wasn't just career-ending. It was criminal on a level that shocked even his fiercest critics. Prosecutors say Diddy wasn't just partying hard. They allege he ran an entire criminal enterprise, one designed to exploit, control, and silence women, using drugs, violence, and manipulation to keep them in line. At the center of this alleged empire, something he chillingly referred to as freak-offs. According to the indictment, these weren't wild nights of consensual fun. They were orchestrated acts of adultery involving male escorts, drugs, and psychological control. Prosecutors claim women were threatened, coerced, and rewarded with money, housing, or gifts to keep them quiet. And if they spoke up, they say Diddy made sure they'd regret it. Diddy, through his lawyers, has pleaded not guilty and maintains his innocence. His defense? He says this was all part of a consensual swinger lifestyle, and that while some of his relationships were messy, nothing criminal took place. But the stories coming out of that courtroom say otherwise, and one woman's testimony is painting a disturbing picture that's hard to ignore, and it all begins with the woman known only as Jane. She walked into court under the name Jane, but her testimony has been anything but anonymous. Over 5 weeks of intense questioning, she's revealed a disturbing pattern, one that prosecutors say exposes how Diddy allegedly controlled her life, her body, and her choices. According to Jane, it didn't start with threats. It started with love, or at least what felt like it. She described a tactic known as love bombing. Diddy would flood her with affection, compliments, and gifts. He'd tell her she was special, but it always came with a price. Jane said it was the same every time. The affection would build until he asked for what he really wanted, a hotel night. That was their code. A hotel night wasn't just a date. It meant Jane would be pressured into having relations with multiple male escorts, while Diddy watched or sometimes joined in. Jane testified that when she resisted, he'd turn up the pressure, emotionally, psychologically. Text messages shown in court captured the twisted dynamic. Diddy telling her, "I want to see you, we don't have to have ES." Jane responding, "You want me for one thing. I'm not trying to F strangers to fulfill your fetishes." But it didn't stop. In one message, Jane accused him of treating her like a piece of animal anyone can F on. He replied coldly, "You're crazy." Jane told the court he said that often. Crazy was his go-to weapon when she pushed back, and the more she resisted, the more intense his messages became. Even when she told him she was mentally and spiritually drained, he ignored it. Then came the night she couldn't forget. According to her testimony, she ended up in a hotel room with 3 different male escorts. She said she vomited between encounters, physically sick from the trauma. And Diddy? He walked into the bathroom, saw her, and said, "Good, you'll feel better now. Let's go outside." That night, Jane says she felt broken, used, and trapped. It wasn't just manipulation through affection. Jane says Combs used something even more effective: money. And once the money started flowing, so did the sense that she didn't really have a choice anymore. In 2023, Diddy allegedly began paying her rent, $10,000 a month. It sounded generous, supportive, but Jane says it quickly became a leash. She told the court, "At any given opportunity, Sean was just hovering the house over my head." He'd remind her, repeatedly, that the place she slept in, the walls around her, the life she had, he paid for it. And in return, she says, he expected submission. Whenever she tried to pull back, to stop the hotel nights, or express emotional exhaustion, Jane testified that he'd snap. In one voice message played in court, Diddy's tone shifted from sweet to savage. "I'm telling you, leave me the F alone." That message came right after Jane asked for help finishing the furniture in her home. She said she'd gone into debt trying to furnish it, believing Combs' earlier promise that he'd cover anything you need. But instead of support, she got silence. Or worse, rage. She texted him, "You've been threatening me with the roof over my head ever since I effing got here. This wasn't just about having relations. It was about power, control, dependency." Jane described the overwhelming pressure she felt to comply, to submit, to go along with whatever he asked, no matter how degrading. Because if she didn't, what would happen? Would the money stop? Would the roof disappear? And when she said she needed a break, just time to recover, Combs responded with a loaded question. "So we're breaking up?" But Jane wasn't trying to leave the relationship. She was trying to leave the lifestyle. She told the court, "I wanted to stop all of it, having relations with other men." But even that, she says, wasn't allowed. At first, it looked like a break, a reward, a getaway from the chaos. Jane says Combs promised her a 4-day trip to Miami, filled with yacht cruises, private time, and no pressure. She agreed, on one condition: no hotel night. Combs agreed, but according to Jane, that promise didn't last. The hotel night ended up stretching into 2 full days. Jane told the court she had agreed out of emotional exhaustion, but once it was over, she expected what was promised: that yacht, the dinner dates, the calm after the storm. Instead, she got Instagram. Back home, scrolling her feed, Jane says she saw something that shattered her. Diddy, on the yacht. Not with her, but with another woman. A month later, it got worse. In an interview, Combs bragged to a podcast host that he'd had 48 hours of debauchery on that very trip. The same trip Jane said he'd promised to her. Humiliated, Jane texted him, "I don't want to be used and locked in a room to perform and fulfill your fantasies." Combs downplayed it. "That was podcast talk," he replied. Then, defensive as ever, he added, "I'm tired of your false accusations." But for Jane, this wasn't just about lies or jealousy. It was about something deeper, realizing the game wasn't rigged in her favor. In court, she said she had already been feeling trapped by the money, by the freak-offs, by the constant pressure to satisfy his desires. But that betrayal, public, loud, and smug, cut through everything. And yet, she stayed. Why? Because by then, Combs had been paying her rent for 6 straight months. She testified that she felt obligated to fulfill his needs. She didn't feel like a girlfriend anymore. She felt like an employee, one who couldn't quit. And just when she thought she might finally get something real, some alone time, something normal, Combs hit her with a text mid-flight to New York. "I have a surprise if that's okay, just one." Jane said her heart sank. She knew what that meant. Another stranger, another night, another lie. That's all for this video on the Diddler. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video, or else you might be receiving a visit from the Diddler himself. Okay, bye!